Overthinking is so common, and we all get stuck in those spirals from small things to big things to the things that don't even matter. I'm going out today to find out what people get stuck overthinking and how they break free from the cycle. What gets you stuck in a cycle of overthinking?
For me, I think overthinking mainly comes from like a fear of failure more than anything. Specifically, when it comes to school and college and like my grades, I come from a family of very very high achievers, and I find myself kind of comparing myself to them quite a lot. And I don't know. I feel like I kind of push myself past my own boundaries sometimes. I'll go for hours and hours and hours pushing myself until I eventually hit like a wall, a complete wall, and I'll crash. And from that point on, really, I tend to just kind of like self-isolate. And I can't really get myself out of that hole, sometimes for hours, sometimes for days. And then when I finally do come back up, I just kind of throw myself back at it all over again.
Has overthinking ever got in the way of you doing the things you want to or in the way of you living your life?
Yeah, 100%, 100%. There are times when I'll work and work and work and work 6, 7 hours in a day, and then I'll have plans later. But because I've pushed myself way too hard, my entire mental state is it's completely fried, and I've completely overloaded my own like brain with too many things. So I just crash basically.
That sounds so hard. What goes through your head when you're worrying about failure?
I feel like for me, the fear of failure is almost like a fear of like the future. I have these very very high expectations of myself for what I want to do and what I want to be, and I feel like if I don't hit these very very high, sometimes unrealistic goals that I set for myself, then I won't achieve it, and then I guess I won't be worth as much as I think I am and as much as I want to be.
Yeah, and I think fear of failure is such a common one and it can be so paralyzing. And like you say, when you put such pressure on yourself with such high expectations, it's really difficult to live up to them. So even though you're doing well, you might not feel like it.
I totally agree.
What's the best piece of advice you've been given when it comes to stopping overthinking?
The best piece of advice, I would say, I would say that when it comes to overthinking, if you can fix the problem, fix your overthinking, then you have no reason to overthink because you can do it and you just will do it. And if you can't fix it, then you also shouldn't worry about it anymore. You shouldn't try and fix it because it's out of your hands. So whatever the situation is, if you can control it, you will control it. And so that kind of stops you overthinking. But if you can't control it, it's important to know when to step back and be like, you know what, that is just the way that it is and there's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah, when to let go of it.
Exactly. It can be a bit of a vicious cycle because sometimes overthinking can lead to procrastination and leading to not doing what it is that you need to do, and then that almost repeats itself and gets worse and worse because now this build up of procrastination leads to you just not doing what needs to be done basically. So I think my question for you is like, how is it that you can kind of break the cycle and escape that?
I think you're exactly right. The trouble with fear of failure is it either pushes you into working really, really hard, or the opposite, it makes you freeze and leaves you feeling paralyzed. And like you say, you end up just isolating or kind of feeling like you just want to stop for a while. And it's almost finding a way to see that failure isn't something to always fear. Like you can learn so much about it. In my books, when I've researched it, actually there's no biographies where you meet someone who hasn't failed along the way, and that it's might not always seem like it, but it's part of the road to success rather than separate from it. And I think when you just take the pressure off, it makes a huge difference, and just trust in yourself a bit more and back yourself.
100%. I think that what you said about failure being like part of the journey to success, I think that's a really beautiful way to put it, and I think it's very, very true. A lot of the time, like failures that I've encountered, I've come out of it like a stronger, better person. So I think like, I don't know, I think maybe I need to kind of like accept failure as just like a natural part of life and accept that like it is part of who it's like made me who I am today, you know.
Yeah, exactly, and it's part of finding the right way, and sometimes even better things come from it.
100%. 100%.
Thank you. Ami said he's really worried about letting people down, but I think it's really important when you have thoughts like this to ask yourself, whose expectation is this? Because more often than not, it's your own thoughts, and it's your critical voice in disguise. I think when we try to achieve and succeed, it can also be a way to feel good about ourselves or to feel like we're acceptable or lovable. But the thing is, it's not achievement that makes us acceptable. You're loved for who you are, not what you do. And the other trouble with relying on external validation to feel good is that it's really precarious. You only ever feel as good as what you're doing. And even when you do reach those standards, which often people do, they tend to move the goalposts. And it's like the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. It just keeps moving over the next hill. What you need to do instead of relying on external validation is start to really take on board how you're doing for yourself. Ami's clearly doing really well in everything that he's working at. He needs to know that rather than wait for the results to prove it. And I think when you learn to take on board how you're doing, it makes such a difference to confidence and self-esteem. Let me know what you think in the comments below.